So, Wednesday Night Live, tonight's topic is building confidence, acceptance and trust. So, the first thing that I wanted to, I sort of have a few different things that I wanted to talk about tonight, and the first one that I shared with everybody over the clinic over the weekend, and I don't have the time, obviously it was a 3-day clinic, and it was 3 full days, so I don't have the time to share everything that we spoke about and all the ins and outs of the clinic. So we're just going to talk about some general terms, I guess, or general concepts that we learnt over the weekend. I keep looking up because I'm live on Instagram at the moment as well. So Instagram, whoever's on Instagram can follow me as well. So it's really great to be here. The first thing that we need to consider when we're thinking about building confidence, acceptance and trust in our horses is the horse and how they work and how they would do things in nature. Basically, that's my entire philosophy, whether I'm teaching confidence, whether I'm teaching collection, whether I'm teaching self-carriage, whether I'm trying to build a cowboy dressage horse. It doesn't really matter. What I'm always thinking about is how the horse conducts himself in nature, how he conducts himself within the herd, how he conducts himself at home, and using the knowledge that I have in regards to how the horse conducts himself to help us both be partners and help us both get to the same goal, I guess. I mean, the horse doesn't really set any goals, although horses do like to be confident. Horses do appreciate, I think, being calm, confident, happy horses. It's certainly reflected in their health. I know that my series of horses, I've got some that haven't really seen much at all, and I've got, Cooper, who's my main horse, who's seen a lot, and I think that they definitely hold weight better. We spoke about this last week in the Spooky Horses episode. So definitely, their inner health is reflected externally, and their inner health includes not only nutrition, but their state of mind, basically. So understand how your horse would work in nature and then use those approaches to help your horse build confidence around obstacles or whatever it is that you're hoping that he'll build confidence in. Maybe it's the trailer, maybe it's trail riding, whatever it is. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is something that we have to understand, and that is that confidence, acceptance and trust aren't necessarily aligned with our agenda. So we kind of go out there and we say, here's a bridge, I want you to cross it. Here's a trailer, I want you to get on it. Here's a big ball, I want you to push it or play with it or be confident with it. And the horse's reflection of confidence, acceptance and trust isn't necessarily immediately going to be aligned with our agenda. So obviously when we're talking about a bridge crossing or something, maybe we're thinking, or obviously our agenda is going to be, I want you to cross over the bridge or the water or whatever it is. Initially, the horse's confidence may be only simply reflected in being able to stand at the bridge and look at the bridge and listen to, what's going on around the bridge. Maybe there's ducks, maybe there's running water, maybe it makes a funny sound, I don't know. Horses will do things step by step, and we have to understand that we tend to get what I call task focused. So human beings go, I want you to cross the bridge, and everything other than that is a failure, or everything other than that is unsuccessful. So when you start to categorize things in success and failure, and you start to think that success and failure is defined by your agenda, then you're really setting yourself up to fail, because the only way you're going to get success is in your idea of the task being completed. Whereas the successful part may be that your horse is now looking at the obstacle. Maybe it's that your horse is now smelling the obstacle. Maybe it's that your horse is no longer running away from the obstacle. And then next week or the week after or the week after, as we slowly start to build confidence in our horses, success will be defined by the eventual crossing of the bridge. But it's not necessarily going to be today, And it's not necessarily a failure if it hasn't happened today. So that's something that we really have to understand, is that we need to scale our idea of success, and we need to understand, well, how is this successful for the horse? How would the horse define success? And I think the horse defines success in calmness. I think the horse defines success by being okay with, you know, I think progress is defined by taking an assessment of where the horse was when it came in regards to the object, and then any kind of improvement on that is success, because you will continue to build and build and build on that. Finally, we need to recognize that acceptance is not necessarily, the horse isn't necessarily demonstrating acceptance if the feet aren't moving. So a lot of us may ask our horse to accept a ball bouncing up on their back, and if the horse doesn't move, we go, see, he's fine. Horse isn't moving. He must be accepting the object. Wherein I see a lot of horses that aren't accepting the object and they aren't moving their feet. What they're doing is freezing. And so I see a lot of people get themselves into trouble with this freezing because they think the horse is accepting something and it's not. It's frozen, it's scared, it's on the spot, and it's just going, oh, I can't wait till you take the ball away from me. And so we take the ball away and go, oh, good boy, we think he's accepting it. And that's not necessarily the case. And so later on, we're actually going to get ourselves into a bit of trouble in that regards. So, some of the tips that I'm going to share with you this evening in regards to building confidence in our horses. Tip number 1. So they were the concepts, the 3 concepts of building confidence, and the 3 levels of consciousness, or the 3 things that I feel we need to be conscious of when we're trying to build confidence in our horse. Now we're going to talk about some of the ways that we can help our horse develop confidence. So the first one is wait, wait, wait again. What I see a lot of, and we did see it over the weekend as well, is when people get task focused, so they present the horse to an obstacle. The horse may not look at the obstacle, may not smell the obstacle, may not do anything about the obstacle, and they say, should I ask him to do it? So walk over it, or let me touch him with it, or whatever. And really, we haven't given the horse any opportunity to just drop into what we're presenting to him and explore. So we need to develop an ability to wait and wait and wait and wait for the horse to show us where he's at in regards to the obstacle. So human beings tend to wait for about 30 seconds to a minute and a half, and then we want to take some kind of action. And we need to extend that out and wait for the horse to take an action that we can either respond to, that we can respond to, or we can correct in some way. The second thing is to let the horse decide the distance that he needs to be from the object initially to be confident. So I've seen people argue with their horse about going up to a creek crossing, and the person wants to argue that the horse needs to at least go up to the creek crossing, so then we can start building your confidence. What we fail to remember is that our horse builds confidence from his level of distance, his distance that he feels confident with, and that's where the confident building process begins, or that's where we start to remove confidence from our horses, or we start to violate trust in our horses, and we start to make the whole thing so much worse. What I mean by that is, humans, again, we get caught up in, when you get to the object, that's when I can start communicating with you about the object. The horse says, I need to be 50 meters away from the object so I can look at it from here And that's where I'm going to start building my confidence from. So it takes a real mental shift for human beings, because we're trying to operate under our agenda and the way that we would perhaps help a human approach an object. And we have to get into horse mind, and we have to start thinking from the horse's perspective. I can see people starting to say hello on Instagram. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live. And hi Mummy, and hi Lex. I can see you guys logged in here on Facebook. So it's really cool. I'm on Facebook and Instagram on the same time. That's really exciting. So the third thing we need to do is use our knowledge of the physiology to help the horse be more confident. And so we need to understand, and again, this is a class in itself. We did a 3-hour class on physiology and psychology, so it's not necessarily something that I can share with you, but what we need to do is say, what is the horse instinctively wanting to do here, and how can I use that knowledge to help the horse become more confident? So we need to look at the horse and say, I think nature's telling you that you should be moving your feet. So let me help you move your feet. Or I can look at the horse and say, you're getting into a state of escalation here, and you're getting in pre-flight mode. And so what I need to do is I need to help you change that state of mind and de-escalate further away from flight mode. And I'm going to use this task to help you come down from approaching flight mode. And then I'm going to use my knowledge about, the distance that he needs to be at, and reading his body, and his body letting him describe to me, I'm scared of the depth, or I'm scared of the movement, or I'm scared of what could be behind it, or I'm trying to figure this out, or I'm trying to figure that out. And then I can use the task that I have, my ground exercises, for example, just my simple foundation exercises, but I need to know which one to use. And I use those exercises to say, hey, stay with me, let's think about this. Hey, how about we move your feet, and that's going to make you more confident. How about we move your feet in this direction, and that's going to make you confident. How about we move your feet in this direction, and that's going to build your confidence. So through knowing the physiology and the psychology of the horse, and then applying that knowledge in a beneficial way, we start to build trust. So once we start to build trust, the horse starts going, geez, Tanja, you really know what you're doing. I feel really confident approaching scary objects and things like that with you. So I'm going to go ahead and trust you to help me understand what's going on here. And I'm going to trust that you're going to help me approach it in a beneficial way. And then when we've got the horse's trust and he starts to build confidence, then he's actually going to be able to approach the object, investigate the object, and finally accept the object, or the trailer, or the trail ride, or the creek crossing, or the bridge crossing, or whatever it is. It's applicable to multiple things. So use your knowledge of physiology and psychology to help the horse become more confident, then build trust, and then finally accept what it is that you're asking him to do. Once you've got a horse that's accepting of what it is that you're asking him to do, or the obstacle that you're presenting to him, it becomes very, very easy to present more new obstacles to him and continue to present that obstacle to him. So once you take the time to show a horse how to trailer load, and they accept the trailer, and they have confidence in the trailer, and they have trust in you, they'll get on any trailer, anytime, anywhere, any place, with any circumstances, pretty much. So you can be in a situation where you might have to put them on a strange trailer, it might be nighttime, it might be noisy, etc., etc. And the horse goes, yep, I'm really confident with the trailer, I accept the trailer. So the trailer is not new to me, it isn't a significant part of my training anymore. So I'm going to just get on the trailer whenever you ask me to get on the trailer. Another thing that human beings fail to recognize or remember when it comes to horses approaching things is their eyes and the way that their vision is different to ours, and the way that their brain works differently to ours, and the way that that process happens. So us being predators, we've got the eyes directly in the front of our head. So I'm taking in everything that's from about, peripherally. I can see my hands here and here. So I'm taking in pretty much a screen or a photograph in front of me, and then my peripheral vision's here, and that's what I see, and that goes straight into my brain. Well, obviously a horse has his eyes set on either side of his head, so he's taking in with one eye everything that's on the left-hand side of him, and with the other eye everything that's on the right-hand side of him. So sometimes you might have a horse that you go out on the trail ride with, and he goes, I'm on the trail ride, no problem. You turn him around and you go home, and you get back to we've got a burnt out car, for example, on our trail, and we get back to the burnt out car and he goes, whoa, I've never seen that before. And you go, yeah, we walked past it on the way here. But what we forget is he didn't see it on the way out with that eye, he saw it on the way out with the other eye, and he managed to get a really good look at it with that right eye. But now we're coming back home, we're in the left eye. So we have to be aware, conscious that our horses need to see everything out of both eyes, and each eye may have a different level of confidence or acceptance or trust in regards to a particular object. Another thing that we really concentrated on at the clinic was the introduction of multi-sensory stimulus slowly. So if anyone records themselves saying that 10 times fast, I will send them some kind of free gift in the mail worldwide. It'll probably be an access code to one of our online courses, because I just think that's the funniest thing. It is introducing multi-sensory stimulus slowly to the horse. So what I mean by that is, any stimulus is visual. So you might have a big ball and the horse sees it and you go, yep, no problem, I can accept the big ball. Then there's another stimulus of the big ball, which is auditory, which is how it sounds when you actually bounce it up and down. So there's an added visual stimulus because you're bouncing it up and down, so it's actually moving differently than when it's stationary. But then you're adding in an auditory sound, which is the boing or the spring or whatever it is that, and different objects have different sounds, obviously. Then you might be introducing a different smell, so olfactory sense. And if you've got, it might be brand new trailer, so it might be rubber inside, it might smell really rubbery. You might be introducing a spray bottle and that might have a chemical in it that smells really funny. So be aware, now we're introducing a smell. So the visual doesn't take care of the smell, and the smell of the object might then worry the horse. So the horse might go, oh yeah, I'm fine with that ball. And then they get up and it's a brand new ball and they go, whoa, I'm not okay with it anymore because it smells funny. And instinctively, if a horse doesn't know what a smell is, then they're going to say, well, I'm not comfortable with this smell. That's instinct is telling them, get away, you don't know what this smell is, this could be a predator. And then you've got the sense of touch. So over the weekend we were using a sprinkler. And so it's a really good example because visually it didn't really look like much. It just looked like a hose on the ground. It was just a soaker hose. And even though the water was spraying up, probably a foot or two in the air, horses really couldn't see it because they were really thin streams of water. It didn't really have a smell other than the rubber hose kind of a smell. It was brand new, so there may have been some kind of smell introduced there. But it did have a big kinesthetic action of not only was water touching the horse, but it was kind of spraying up and tickling them as well. So we introduced, and it did have a funny noise because it was spraying. So we tried to introduce all of those senses slowly, so one at a time, instead of just going bang and having sensory overload. And the horse saying, well, I really need to get away from this because you're not allowing me to break the individual components down and accept each one individually. So if you can, obviously there'd be some objects that you can't break it down. Obviously, if you've got a brand new trailer, you can't take the smell away. It's just going to be there. But the noise and things like that, you'll probably be able to slow that down, maybe of the vehicle starting and things like that. So if you can, introduce multi-sensory stimulus slowly and consider it. Oftentimes I see people who walk up with a fly spray bottle and go on the horse without thinking, well, it's visual, it's got a noise, it's kinesthetic because the fly spray is landing on them, and it's got a smell. So there's 4 senses that are being stimulated all at the one time, and we don't really think anything of it. So, you know, again, human beings, because we have the ability to communicate with words and things like that, someone can explain something to us and say, oh, I'm just spraying this on you, it's going to have a funny smell, but this is what it's for. Like they do, I guess, if you're in hospital or at the doctor's or having a procedure or something, they explain everything to you and say, oh, this is gonna be cold, this is gonna smell funny, this is gonna do this. Well, we have to realize that we can't explain that to the horse. So we need to break it down and show the horse that it's going to have, you know, different sensory stimulus. Second last thing that we have to remember is that our horses explore things in a different way to us. So once we do have the horse approaching an object and going up to an object, they're going to want to reach out and touch it, which is the photo that you saw advertising this this Wednesday Night Live tonight. You saw the photo of the horse reaching out and touching that big pink flamingo. The first thing they want to do is reach out and touch it and just put their nose on it and smell it a little bit. Then what's going to happen is they're going to use the end of their nose, it's kind of like fingertips for them, and they're going to rub their little nose on it, and then they might bite on it or they might start to paw it. So this is exploratory. This is the way that they're trying to figure out, is it hard, is it soft, is it dangerous, does it move, does it make a sound, does it smell funny, does it taste funny, etc, etc, etc. And then once they're through all of that, what they're going to want to do is actually destroy it. They're going to want to rip it, paw it, etc, etc. Most horses are going to want to do that. You know, sometimes with young male horses it can be a play drive kind of a thing, but most of the time destruction is, if I can kill it, then I must be safe. If I can tear it to pieces, then it can't hurt me. So it's just a dominance kind of a thing. So we have to be really conscious when we're introducing something new to our horse. Is it safe for them to bite onto it, or can something get caught around their mouth? Is it safe for them to paw it, or can something hook onto their foot and then they're going to run away with it? I saw something on Instagram today, and it's funny, we were talking about it at the clinic over the weekend. I saw a video, there's a video getting around on Instagram at the moment, where a horse has a feed bag in his mouth, and he's picked it up. And what he's done is he's picked it up and then he's scared himself with it. So part of his exploratory was biting it. And then what happened was, just as he bit it and picked it up, he got frightened of it and his jaw clamped shut. So it's actually stuck in his mouth. And we've had this happen at a clinic, at a colt starting clinic before, where a horse actually picked up something that he was worried about, or was mouthing something that he was worried about, got frightened, clamped his jaw shut, and then started running away, not realising that he had to drop it. And luckily his owner was there and he was online, and she was able to sort of get him through it and then rebuild his confidence with this object. Now this video on Instagram, this little horse is in a round pen, he's at liberty, he's obviously got a hold of this feed bag, and he's really frightened of it. So he's spinning away from this feed bag, and it's chasing him because it's stuck in his mouth. So he spins and spins and spins, and he can't get rid of it, and then he ends up spinning the other way, and he looks like he's going to crash into the round pen. It's just going, you know, it's really frightening to watch. It's a real worry kind of a situation. Then what he does is he takes off with it, and luckily he stands on it as he's bolting with it, and it rips it out of his mouth, and then he's able to get away from the bag. So you have to bear in mind, this is your responsibility as the handler who's introducing the horse to this object, that could happen. And it's not something that we think of, that they're going to bite something and it's going to get stuck, because we think, well, they'll bite it and drop it if it scares them. But if that instinct of flight jumps in straight away, they're going to go, and they're going to run, and it's going to get stuck. And I've, like I say, that's 2 incidences that I know of personally. And funnily enough, it was just on Instagram today getting around of this little horse with this bag. So when you're looking at objects to introduce your horse to, make sure you're thinking, what's the worst case scenario here? What could go wrong? Could he get hooked up on it? Could it get stuck on his mouth? Could it get stuck on his teeth? Could it hurt him? Can it flap in his face? Can it hit him in the head or, wrap on his knees? Can he fall through it? Etc, etc, etc. The final thing that I wanted to share with you about building confidence and acceptance and trust in our horses is that it is a process that takes time. It's not necessarily going to be a one-hit wonder. It's not necessarily going to be something that you're going to be able to immediately do. It's not something that you're going to be able to walk out. The horse is going to, go, oh, thank you, you've let me look at it for 2 minutes and I'm perfectly happy with it. Sometimes it's a work in progress, and sometimes you may have to walk away from the object and come back to it later, and that's okay. And in fact, it's something that the horses would do and do in nature all the time. You see it, if you put something in the paddock that they're worried about, they'll approach and retreat and circle it and then look through both eyes, and then they'll graze near it, and then they'll move away, and then they'll come back. It's not a problem. We must start to think about it in, how can I help you? Words, instead of, I'm going to get you to do this obstacle. I'm going to get you over this bridge. I'm going to get you through this creek crossing. I'm going to get you on the trailer. If we start thinking, I'm going to build confidence in the trailer, then what's the harm in walking away? If you're going to build confidence in the creek crossing, then what's the harm of taking a break and then coming back to it? Different things are different. I'm not saying walk away, turn back on a creek crossing or whatever. But what I'm saying is you need to give the horse time. So wait. And depending on the obstacle, like with that big flamingo, if you've seen the photos, go and check them out. They're on the Facebook page. The Building Confidence is about 150 photos up there. You can see all the cool obstacles that we expose the horses to on the weekend. Some of us were circling around that flamingo and then walking away and going and doing something else and then coming back to the flamingo and getting a little bit closer, etc, etc. So don't be afraid to walk away and come back. And in fact, I have found this is a better method because it helps to build the confidence in you, as in the horse trusting you, build the horse's trust in you, and it helps you remain calm, it helps you remain in control of the situation, and it gives the horse a break. It allows the horse to go away from the object and then come back to it later and think about it, etc, etc. So there's not a problem with walking away from something and coming back to it. So they're all my tips on building confidence, acceptance and trust. I've got a comment here, Ariel, saying, my horse has a lot of anxiety regarding the bit. He gapes his mouth wide open when he's not constantly mentally engaged. Do you have some advice on how to help him build confidence, acceptance of the bit? Okay, yes I do. And I don't know where you are in the process, Ariel, so this is actually a really good topic and probably something that I'm going to film. I've got several horses here that have not been mouthed, and so I will probably end up filming a short video or even a course, because I had exactly this question today from another lady who's introducing the bit. So one of the ways, or the first thing I do when I'm introducing the bit is that I do use a mouthing bit, because they've got little keys in them and they can play with them and they keep the horse's jaw moving. I want the horse's jaw to keep moving, and I know that we've got a line of thought out there that's put a noseband on him, you don't want him chewing, you don't want him mouthing the bit, and I want the complete opposite. Acceptance of that bit comes in the horse's ability to explore it and mouth it and chew it and play with it, and keeping the jaw moving is crucial in regards to that process. So the first thing I do is put a mouthing bit in, and the first thing I do is I put the bit on the horse, but I don't put it up over his ears, and I kind of put it in there and I let him go, and then I take it off again. And then I put it back on and I let him chew it a little bit or play with it, and then I take it off again. And that might only be a few seconds at a time, because the number one thing I want the horse to understand is that that bit is going to come off again. If we put it straight on and strap it to him, sometimes the horse goes into fight mode and thinks, you've just put this on me, I need to get it off, I need to get it off, I need to get it off. So number one thing is I actually show him 2 or 3 times that it's going to come off. And then I might put it on him, but only for a minute or so, or not even a minute. I watch the horse's body language, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And then I take it off again, because I'm not going to wait for him to settle. A lot of people say, oh, you need to wait for them to settle, otherwise they won't learn. I completely disagree. If you put something in my mouth, I'm going to play with it. And you've seen people who get tongue piercings or something like that, and days later, weeks later, they're still talking to you and they're still playing with it like this, because their brain is still trying to get used to this new piece of stuff that's in their mouth. Horses are exactly the same. So with a young horse, I really don't mind that they're playing. When you use the term gaping, I would be checking that it's not too tight, so it's not making him sort of bear down and gape on it. I would make sure that it's not clinking on his teeth. I would make sure that if it's a double jointed bit, that some of the horses, if their mouths are too narrow, crazy, I know I keep saying it and it sounds like I've been on Facebook all day, which I haven't been, but I just saved an article today, and there's photos of the inside of a horse's mouth that has actually been pinched by a double jointed bit, because the horse's mouth is so narrow that those 2 joints are actually sitting right here, kind of, and the cheek skin is sitting under the bit and it's pinching down on the cheek skin. So I love a double jointed bit. I know, we're trying to avoid the single joint because it's got the nutcracker action in it. And sometimes those double jointed though are too wide for the horse. So when you put a bit in a horse's mouth, you need to really open that mouth and have a look and play with it. Put it up, drop it down, have a look at where it sits in the horse's mouth in relation to the tongue, in relation to the teeth, in relation to the cheek skin. Some horses' mouths are really small. Like my horse Cooper, he's got really short lips. So he doesn't have a lot of room in there, which means that typically a bit sits pretty close to his teeth, because the corners of his lips are still close to the bottom of his teeth. They're not near the gap. Some horses have a really long lips, and that brings the bit. If you're just sitting the bit in relation to the lips, if you're fitting the bit in relation to the lips, and the lips are really long, well, that could cause you to put the bit way up here near the horse's teeth. Some horses don't have a lot of room in there. Cooper's got a really fat tongue. He's got really fleshy cheeks. And so there's just not a lot of room in there for a fat bit. So you need to think about like the sizing, not only the width of the bit, but the fatness or the thinness of the bit. The nutcracker action, so how it's being held in the horse's mouth. And if it is touching the roof of the mouth, the horse might be gaping to try and get it away from the roof of the mouth. What else, Ariel? This is just all off the top of my head. Like I say, I will film a video about it because I do get asked this question a lot. Putting a little bit of something nice that he likes on it to encourage that salivation. So whether he likes applesauce or whether a little bit of molasses or something like that, just putting it in there and letting him kind of get confident with it. Putting it in there without the reins on it, so it just is sitting there and hanging. You must monitor your horse when you do this. I mean, I like turning my horse out in my arena and letting them walk around with the bridle on, but be aware that they will or may try and rub it off, and you don't want that snaffle getting caught on something, because then, it's game over. That's going to terrify them, and it's going to probably hurt significantly. So I turn my horses out at liberty if I can, if it's safe enough, but I'm in there with them and I'm making sure that I'm moving them on if they go to rub it on anything. And I find that just letting them be free and wander around and, carry it around in their mouth without me saying turn left, turn right, etc., etc., I find that really helps as well. If you don't have an area where you can turn them out, put the halter and lead on and put the bridle on over the top with no reins. So again, do your lunging or maybe some ground exercises and just have the bridle on over the top, so the horse learns to follow instruction, but it's not actually instruction that's coming from the bit. So again, that's kind of like that multi-sensory stimulus. What we tend to do with the bit is we put the bit in the mouth and we go turn left. And the horse is like, I've got something in my mouth, it tastes funny, it feels uncomfortable, I'm trying to think about what's in my mouth, and now you're asking me to execute maneuvers. So we separate that and say, here's the bit, get comfortable with that, And here's a halter, so I'm going to actually ask you to now so first you turn the horse out at liberty with the bit and let him get used to just carrying it around. Then I put the bridle on over the top of the halter and lead, and I actually ask him to lunge and do some transitions, etc., while he's just carrying the bit. And then I'm going to start to give him instructions with the bit, with the bridle, if that makes sense. So hopefully, Ariel, that'll give you a good start. By all means, send me a private message and give me some more background on your horse, and that'll give me some more information for the film that I'll do. Thank you so much for your comment. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone who joined in tonight. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope that you had I hope you're having a great week. And again, all of our blessings to those of you, all of our thoughts to those of suffering in the floods and now fires. And you know, there were fires down in Tasmania, and now we've got fires up here in the western part of New South Wales. So our thoughts go out to all of you that might be facing some challenges at the moment, and we hope that it all works out well for you and your animals. And thank you so much for joining me on Wednesday Night Live. Next week, I think we have a special guest, and I'm really excited about that. So I will fill you in more as soon as we decide on the topic, etc., etc. Thank you for joining me on Instagram Live as well. And please go ahead and send your topics through if there's anything specific that you'd like to hear me talk about. Thanks for joining, and good night.